Hello there. Hi, welcome to January 4th. It's about 10 o'clock at night. I have spent the day, I went to the airport. I spent 5 hours at Ready Reserve in the crew room. And then I went to the gym and boy, I'm really enjoying getting back into shape. It's really fantastic. Then I came home tonight and I made a fantastic dinner and a nice cozy hearty dinner, pasta with tomatoes and capers and all sorts of fun stuff. I'll be eating that for the next 3 days because I just saw that I have a 3-day trip starting tomorrow afternoon. So I'll take all that with me to Chicago, where it's going to be 0 degrees or something like that. So you saw by the video title that I was going to talk with you about being older and entering this career path. Before I started filming these videos, I had filmed one 7-minute long clip, which is not a long time for me because I talk a lot. In response to some posts I saw on Facebook, I saw a lot of people asking what the cutoff age was for being a flight attendant, or how old can I be and enter this career. And I saw a lot of folks answer, yes, you can do this at any age. There's no cutoff date. I was 48. I was 62 when I went to training. But I really didn't hear why being older might be of value in this industry. And I'm not, to you folks who are younger who might be watching this video, I don't know, I'm not saying anything bad, that you don't have wonderful abilities and life skills of your own. I've met some young folks that just blew my socks off in terms of some of the topics I'll be talking about in a few minutes. I've met some really amazing people who were in their 20s that had just amazing life skills. So I'm not talking down to anybody who's younger, but for those people who are older, it's difficult to walk into a room full of 500 bright, shiny, young, vibrant people who want the job that you want. And it's difficult to not feel like, wow, what am I doing here? How can I compete with all this youth? It's impossible. In most of the world, youth wins every time. So I'm not talking down to the young people, but sometimes we who are a little older need to be buoyed up a little bit and reminded that we are spectacular people who have survived a whole bunch of stuff and can bring gifts that we've earned through those experiences to this industry. So the first of those gifts I'd like to talk about is empathy. It is, I've written notes for each of these things because I just go off on tangents. So we've celebrated and lost a lot of things. So we know what it's like to see someone else suffering or celebrating. Where to go with that? How far to push it? How can we be supportive? I was on a flight not long ago, and it was actually, these two stories I'm going to tell you happened on trips right next to each other. I was on a flight. It was a red-eye to Fort Lauderdale. A woman was chatting with a friend, and I overheard something. She's celebrating something. You know, hi, you know, what's going on? Where are you going? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I almost always start my conversations off with, hi, have you flown with us before? Because a lot of folks haven't. We're pretty small. And she said, no, but this is my first time. I said, oh, so why did you choose us on this trip? And she said, oh, well, you go to Costa Rica. You know, we go regularly to Costa Rica. And she was flying there to celebrate her 60th birthday. 60 isn't so far away from me anymore. I'm turning 49 in a few months. And I was just really excited for her, and we chatted about how she's going to go zip lining, and I told her I'm afraid of heights, and she thought it was funny because I'm a flight attendant. I just don't like falling, like in a roller coaster. Zip lines just don't make any sense to me. Let's go sliding down a wire. Not for me. But we had a great conversation. It just wasn't her talking and me nodding, about shared experiences. In my tote bag, I keep blank note cards, just with I think there's butterflies on the one I have in my bag now. So I keep blank note cards on me, because I just never know when someone's going to need a little support or a little celebration. So I asked all of my crew, my cabin crew, to write a little happy birthday message, and we slid it under the cockpit door to have the flight crew write a little happy birthday message. And I passed by when she was awake, because it was a nap time flight, and I gave her the card and a little chocolate chip muffin. And I said, I really can't give you a birthday cake, but here's a little token, and we want to wish you a happy birthday. And she was just so touched out of this, what felt like zero effort. She was just really, really touched. And it was great to make that little effort, knowing that it would make her day. Because I have received similar gestures that were not enormous, but to know that suddenly out of 200 people in an airplane where you thought you were anonymous and invisible, that someone just touched you with a little bit of care. And it's beautiful. The next flight, and this isn't such a happy story, and I apologize, but it's one of my favorite stories. I've told it before. The next flight, we had some turbulence leaving Fort Lauderdale. It was not an easy flight. A woman was sitting in the very back row with her two small children, little children. I had moved her husband up to an emergency exit row because he's like 8 feet tall. So I moved him up in front, and he was very gracious, very happy. She said thank you, but her demeanor was just dark. She was not happy. And when that turbulence hit, she was just really unhappy. She told me that Southwest didn't experience turbulence like this. I don't know, physics is different for Southwest. She was just really unpleasant. Every interaction for the first few minutes was really unpleasant. And she asked again about turbulence, and we talked. I have a little talk I use to get people off the ledge when it comes to turbulence. I make this analogy between a woman walking in heels on an uneven sidewalk and how she has to shimmy a little bit to carry herself, nice and steady. And an airplane has to shimmy and carry itself through an unstable environment. And we talked about the physics of flight and how the wings create lift, and she was calmed by this. And after the turbulence had passed, I walked by and said, boy, I'm sorry, this is a long story. I said, hey, how are you feeling now? And she's like, not well, rotten. And I said, oh, is there anything I can do to make your flight better? And she goes, no. She was on her way. She had a phone call that morning at 4 a.m. That her oldest son, 19 years old, had died of an overdose, and that she was going back to Chicago to ID his body. And she had two small kids with her, and her husband, who apparently has a drinking problem, as I discovered. This woman was trying not to have the worst day of her life because she had to be responsible for these two little kids and her husband, who didn't know how to handle this. And she's flying 7 miles up in the air in the back of an aircraft in a seat directly upright, because our seats don't recline, in the dark, alone, wide awake while the rest of her family slept. And she was having a really, really shitty day. And I knew that I couldn't take her pain away. I wasn't going to fix anything. But as a middle-aged gay man, I can't say every man, there's a few men I know who are still alive, but most of my friends and my lovers from the 80s and 90s are dead. HIV and AIDS have taken all of them. I've seen people die in front of me, people I truly care about and love. I've watched my grandmother die in front of us. And we talked about, and again, it wasn't a monologue on my part because I do talk a lot, but we had this conversation about the nature of love and how love may change its form, its shape, but not really go away. My analogy to pain like that is it's a very big surprise and it's a shock and it goes away and it comes back and it goes away and it's a surprise like a piece of broken glass on the beach. It kind of stabs you in the foot out of the blue and you're surprised and you're shocked and you're hurt. And that little piece of broken glass that caused so much pain with time and wear softens and becomes eventually a little piece of beach glass that we come to value as a little treasure when we see it along on the beach. We pick it up and we put it in our pocket and we hold on to it as a memory of a beautiful day. That's how I am. And these memories of love and of losing someone, for me, become precious. Even the pain becomes precious and a treasure that I hold on to. And I will pull out of my pocket once in a while and look at, well, it might be painful once in a while to remember that we talked about things like this. It was a long flight from Fort Lauderdale to Chicago. Everyone's asleep. And it was a beautiful experience. And I know that she was touched. I shared weight is lighter. So I know she felt a little bit better about facing what she had to face. And I felt better. I felt like a good human being, honestly. And I wasn't doing it for any other reason than to be present for someone who is in pain. But empathy, go back to that word, is I understand what it's like to lose someone because I've lost a lot of people. And it's a great gift to bring to not just such an extreme situation, an extreme story. Someone just might be seasick, airsick, to be able to truly empathize with someone who's not in a good situation or someone who is celebrating something that is just amazing and to be joyful for them, even though it doesn't affect you. It doesn't impact you at all. The joy is theirs. But to be able to empathize with joy as much as sorrow is something that in middle age, I know that I can bring to every day. Every flight, I know for a fact that empathy is something I can bring to that room. It's a gift and an honor is what I wrote here. It's a gift and an honor to be there for that passenger sitting in the dark, miles in the air, while they're having the worst day of their life or celebrating life's amazing journey. This is a little note I wrote for myself. The next thing, patience. Now, I made a whole little video about patience. You can watch it. No one else has. It hasn't gotten a lot of views. But things I wrote here. We have had to learn how to wait for things. We've gotten the things we waited for and then realized we didn't want them. Right? And there's like 10,000 ways to bring just those two sentences to work in the airline industry. Be it from challenging passengers, guests, to difficult coworkers, to turbulence, to crew scheduling not making you aware of a delay or a cancellation. Patience is something that is just as important as communication is in this airline, in this industry. And it kind of goes back to empathy as well. As I am patient with people, the worst people. I am most patient with the worst. Because I have been that rotten passenger. I have been a rotten customer in my life. You hear yourself saying something and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. I've gone back to say I'm sorry to so many cashiers in my life that it's embarrassing. So sometimes I know I can put myself in that person's place and understand why they may be behaving that way. So this is probably more about empathy than patience, but there is a video I have on patience and it might be worth watching. I think so. Let's see, what was my other thingy here? Tolerance. Oh boy, tolerance. Look at my notes here. Over the years, you and I have met a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, different faiths, different experiences, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, and hopefully, when I say hopefully, we've all discovered that each person from every genre of humanity has something to offer us, as long as we leave ourselves open to understanding that they're okay and we're okay. If I'm tolerant of others, even though I may not agree with them or understand them, I'm only going to present myself to life in a more open fashion, and I only receive more. So if I'm more tolerant and open to others, if you open up that door, so many gifts are going to flow in that you didn't expect. And these are things that, if I'm talking to someone who's older, you know what I'm talking about. So tolerance is something that we don't really hear about a lot. I was lucky enough once to listen to the Dalai Lama. He came to Boston back in 2002, and I was lucky enough to get a ticket, and I sat in the way high up seats. And he told us basically that tolerance is not the goal. Tolerance is a good first step in reaching the goal of accepting people or things as they are. Not because tolerance would sometimes imply, especially with me, tolerance would imply that I see it from a higher position down my nose. I'm tolerating something. I'm letting it be, even though it's not what it should be. So eventually, tolerance is a wonderful thing, but for me, tolerance is a gateway to acceptance. And acceptance is really paramount to surviving. So tolerance is just great. We've learned to get along with many different types of people, and you're going to need that between passengers, coworkers, strangers in the airport looking for directions. Tolerance is going to be really a valuable skill. Let's see. Humility. You know, I don't even know how to write a page about humility. Look at my notes here and see. Okay. At 48, no, I learned this earlier than 48 because I've had many years of, I've been in recovery. You're going to hear everything from me eventually. I've been in recovery from alcohol and drugs for 15 years plus. And one of the things you end up learning about yourself in recovery is you are not unique. If you have not figured this out by now and you're middle-aged, I hate to tell you this. It's like being told there's no Santa Claus. You are not unique in the world. You're not the most unique individual on the planet. We're not special. We kind of are in our ways, but none of us are unique. Everything we think and say and do has been done before. Every consequence has been paid. So the minute I start walking around thinking I am special, that I do know the right way to do things, I become an evangelist. And that is broadcasting to those who, you should do things my way. And that just, it's not a healthy thing in society. One of the phrases that I learned in recovery is that we are just another bozo on the bus. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to you, but it does to me. The universe, a difficult passenger, crew scheduling, that senior mama doesn't have it out for us. Like, be humble. Like, they're just doing their job. They're just doing the next right thing for them. Whatever happens, it's not about us. My power in life is not derived from what I do. I'm sorry, and what I think you should do. Maybe that's it. One of the things I wrote down here is an example. An example in the airline industry, for example, if I'm walking through doing my compliance checks, all your tray tables need to be up, your bag's under the seat in front of you. If I approach it humbly and say something like, could you please tuck your super cute bag? I always say something like, oh, I love your bag. Unfortunately, it needs to go onto the seat in front of you. Thank you. It's not a conversation, but I've said it nicely, sweetly. Could you tuck it under the seat in front of you? Thank you so much. Just for landing, just for takeoff. Versus, that bag needs to go under the seat. Blink, blink, you know. Humility, while not described well here, is something, maybe I'm preaching to the choir and you're as old as I am or have enough experience to understand what I'm talking about. And if I have not expressed myself well, I apologize. Look, I'm so humble. Love. Yes, love. I'm going to look at my notes here because I can go off on a tangent. I know how to love somebody even if they're acting out in pain or fear. If you have children, I don't, you're welcome. If you have children, you have loved your child through difficult times. Otherwise, none of us would be here right now. How many teenage boys or girls were nightmares to their parents, but somehow said parents loved them through it. You know, if someone is acting out in pain or fear, I try to be generous and kind and offer some light to them. Sometimes that person will look up and recognize that it's not as dark because we have brought some light to them, and it changes everything. I can show love and care to a stranger because I have been cared for and loved by people who didn't need to. And a sample, a little thing I wrote down here is, I've cried while on the subway. I have a penchant for crying in public. Oh my God. In Boston, I would be on the subway and I would cry. I broke up with, well, someone broke up with me, truth be told. I was broken up with, I was dumped, and I was on the subway and a song came on the radio, on my headphones, and I just lost it. And I'm looking out the window trying to cry like out the window and not that anyone could see me. And I turned to just wipe my face, and this guy across from me just smiled gently, nodded with understanding, and he handed me a tissue. It wasn't a big gesture, but there was love there. There was kindness there. And there are ways that you have experienced that love and that kindness, and you've given those acts of kindness and love in return. We've raised children, not me. Wow, no. We've cared for elderly parents. I have an ex-husband who's still alive. That's an act of kindness and love. But we've lived long enough to have experienced love and kindness in small amounts and great amounts from strangers. And for me, sometimes the small gestures from out of the blue from strangers are the most impactful because there's always a surprise. And I am reminded that I'm worthy and I have some value. Okay, now we've talked about some of the things that you need to bring, I think you need to bring to this career. And what I think that many of us in middle age have practiced, if not perfected. And we can bring these things to work. And any industry that receives someone like us with all of these wondrous gifts they can't help but be better for having us as part of the team. And again, if a young person is still watching this, I'm sorry, you're not less valuable. You're going to learn all these lessons yourself. I hope they're easy lessons for you. For me, I always had to learn them a couple of times, and they were always very expensive. These life lessons were never cheap. But speaking of cheap, one more reason that an airline would be happy to have you, I think, and lucky to have you. Cost. We are a bargain. We are a super bargain. We come with all of these gifts I've just talked about: love, patience, humility, empathy. We come with a bag full of tools that we are going to be able to use to help our guests, our passengers, go through what could be a scary flight for them, a first flight, a flight to joy, a flight to sorrow. We have all these wonderful tools to bring to work that we're bringing to work for free. The airline didn't have to give them to us or train us to have these gifts. So, if they paid, and I wrote this down because I liked it, if they paid me an equal value to my experience, they couldn't afford me. They couldn't. It would be very expensive to train a 22-year-old in the ways of being a ninja. You know, a middle-aged person who has lived a full life. So I think that we're a steal. I think we're a steal. So I wanted, and just as to highlight that, I'm looking at my contract and going back to this rate of pay. Now, in my airline, if someone's being hired today and they start today, they're paid $20.42 an hour. Now, in 16 years, which is as high as our raises go right now, our next contract that may change, in 16 years, that person will be earning $51.13. And that's as of this contract. In 3 or 4 years, when we have a new contract, that may go up, I don't know, but in 16 years, that's $51.13. And I know that that'll go up in the next contract. The odds of me being with my airline for 16 years, slim. I don't know. I don't know if I want to be flying when I'm that old. You hire a 22-year-old, they're certainly going to be earning $51.13 in 16 years. And they're going to be earning a lot more because they'll be around for a lot longer than me. So they're going to be spending more money, the company, on this youngster than they will for you, while that younger person is learning all the things we're bringing to the table already. So think about what an enormous value you are. Not that this is a Dollar Tree, but you're a steal. You're a bargain. You're a diamond amongst rhinestones, and they just happen to pluck the right diamond out of that pile of glass. Drama. So I have talked well enough. I want to encourage anybody who is middle-aged, older. Oh my God, I didn't say this. It's a wonder because I've said everything else. We have a lot of folks who have been retirees. One of our recent classes had 2 guys that were 64 each. They were both school teachers for like 30 some odd years, and they retired. What better career for a retiree than a job where you only work, maybe you have 12 or 13 days off a month more later on down the road once you're off reserves and you can drop trips and stuff. Come on, what more perfect job could you have during your retirement than something that pays you to travel, that pays you to do something you already enjoy? And I'll tell you, to be able to get up and see the world for free, it's pretty special. So if you're retired or close to retiring, definitely put this on your list of things to do. Again, I know I've talked for too long. I apologize. This is just a topic that I'm so passionate about. And I know this won't get as many views as, say, what does a flight attendant earn? But for those people who are watching it, I really hope that it's impactful, and I've encouraged you to go out and get your wings. Join me in the skies. It's a wonderful life. And there you go. So drop a comment below. I would love you to like the video. I would love you to subscribe. Join me along this journey. What else? Oh, I created a little Facebook page so that if you want to get in touch with me but don't want to leave a comment below for whatever reason, just click that little Facebook link. It's called A Bear in the Air. I know. well, it's a long story. One day I'll tell you the story. But I am a bear in my little gay genre, and I'm up in the air. There you go. So there you go. I keep talking. So thank you for watching. You're a saint for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye. Have a good night.